My wife and I are in our late 30s. We have 2 children. We have been together for 18 years. We met when we were teenagers. Things have been normal for the past 5 years. It wasn't a great marriage and has its shares of ups and downs, challenges, communication issues, waning of passion, back and forth, droughts, lots of great romance, lots of closeness, an intact family, and contentment. It wasn't a Hollywood romance, but I thought it was a good marriage. A whole lot right and not much wrong. I could have been a better husband. She could have been a better wife. This is true of almost every single marriage on the planet, except that I just found out that my wife is a prolific cheater. I feel like such an idiot for not leaving her years ago. Looking back, I don't think she was ever honest in this relationship. My inability to connect the dots has essentially made me an accessory to my own cuckoldry. Almost 14 years ago, in 2005, I suspected that my wife cheated on me. How did I find out? I went to one of my favorite bars with my friends and started a conversation with a female bartender I knew. She revealed to me that there was a guy that was bragging about sleeping with multiple women, including my wife. We joke around sometimes, and she had a dry sense of humor, so I thought she was joking. At the end of the night, when I was about to leave the bar, she made a statement that gave me pause. She said, "You might want to talk to your wife about that." And I took offense to that last statement. I left salty without tipping her. That was the last time I went to that bar. I thought she shouldn't have rubbed a joke in my face like that. When I went home that night, I don't know if it was the alcohol or what, but I felt the need to confront my wife about it. When I confronted my wife, she turned it around on me and accused me of cheating with the female bartender that told me. I recall back then we argued about it, but I couldn't do anything because I didn't have any evidence of her cheating, and since she wouldn't admit to it, I didn't have anything to go on. I justified it that any drunk person will say anything to a bartender, or maybe the bartender was just joking. I didn't go back to ask her for years because I believed my wife and thought the bartender was being rude. But still, my gut feeling was telling me that something was off, but I chalked it up to my insecurities. A year after this, a different man had called her phone and I answered. He hung up. When I confronted her about the identity of the person, she told me that he was a guy that did some work for her dad's company. Although she does work for her dad on occasion, I was still skeptical. I did a little digging because I didn't believe her story, and I saw her phone bills a few days later, and she had been calling the guy 5+ times a day. I confronted her about this, and she always maintained nothing happened. He worked for her dad, and they were friends, which should have been a red flag. But I failed to connect the dots again. Fast forward a few months ago, I was playing video games with my wife's brother-in-law. He's married to my wife's older sister. Mind you, my wife have 2 other younger sisters, so 4 girls and 1 boy. I was playing video games with my wife's brother-in-law, and we were drinking as well. So I don't know how that subject came up, but he said this guy, way back in 2005, banged 3 of the sisters, including my wife and her 2 younger sisters. That caught me off guard. It was obvious that the alcohol influenced his admission. Apparently, it was a secret that I wasn't supposed to know. I pressed him for more information, but he wouldn't provide any more. He claimed that it was just a rumor. Flashback to 14 years ago, when the bartender mentioned the same thing. And when I confronted my wife, she gaslighted me to the moon and turned around and accused me of cheating with the bartender. So I didn't tell my wife about what her brother-in-law said right away. Luckily enough, I now know who this guy was from 14 years ago. I was much bigger than him. I tracked him down and confronted him for the truth. Not in an aggressive way, just man to man. I knew that if I had confronted my wife, she would have lied to me. Back in the days, this guy was the local ladies' man, and from what I heard, He normally brags about the women he slept with, but when I confronted him, he claimed he never said anything about me or touched my wife. He even told me she's a loyal girl, which is completely unnecessary. The fact that he went out of his way to say she is a loyal girl to me was almost an admission that he knew my wife and must have hit on her or was trying to protect her, but he did the opposite. I was convinced after the interaction that chances are that he was covering for her. I reached out to the bartender on social media, and she had long moved to another career and had a family. She never responded to my messages. I went back home and pressured my wife for more information. She acted surprised and dumbfounded. She couldn't believe that after 14 years, I went back to speak to the guy. She knew I wasn't going to give up. Even though we have had a relatively good marriage, she knew I wasn't letting this go. I threatened to file for divorce, and I threatened to speak to the wife of the other man. I didn't know if he is married to the same woman, but I didn't care. I just wanted to put pressure on my wife to get to the bottom of this whole thing. Several weeks later, our relationship was deteriorating. Gaslighting, trickle truth, love bombing, hysterical bonding, blame shifting have been all part of the package to try to convince me that I was making things up. In a random psycho act, I looked through her Instagram. For some reason, a guy stood out because all he did was like the selfie my wife posted 5 years ago. Now, I may seem like a psycho paranoid husband, but I feel like I have been sleeping through this relationship, and I was looking for any amount of evidence to show that I'm not crazy, like she's accusing me of being. I confronted her with the Instagram of the dude liking her pictures, and she claimed she didn't know him. It escalated to the point where she summoned family members to make mockery of my accusation by making jokes about it at a family gathering, saying that I was checking her Instagram for people that like her pictures and accusing me of being a creep and a psycho, trying to invent a wedge to destroy our marriage and family. And to be honest, she succeeded in making me feel like crap. They didn't follow each other, so I dismissed it. I started sleeping on the couch and not speaking to her, and she knew that I wasn't going to give up, and it would eventually result to the end of our marriage if she didn't tell me the truth. 2 weeks ago, I finally broke her. My wayward wife finally gave in and admitted she slept with this guy 14 years ago. She claimed she didn't know why she did it, and she didn't plan to date him. She said he had a girlfriend. She also admitted they slept 5 times, always in her car. To top it off, this disgusting guy had slept with her younger sister a few months earlier and had slept with the youngest sister 2 years later. He even gave the youngest sister an STD. What a family of tramps. Talk about marrying into a den of vipers. She admitted she was friends and liked the guy who was calling her 13 years ago, the one she claimed worked with her father. She said he always complimented her, and she doesn't know why, but she went and stayed with him one night. She claimed that they didn't kiss or have excess, but he fingered her, which I hardly believe. She stayed with him the entire night, and that was all he did? I don't think she showed any remorse, and is absolutely downplaying it because it happened so long ago. In fact, she's trying to blame me for the guys in 2005 and 2006, saying I was always gone to work. All this time, my gut feelings was right. It's a bittersweet pill to know that I wasn't crazy, but at the same time, there was a small part of me that wish I were. It's beginning to set in that the mother of my kids lied to me from the beginning of our relationship. I admit that I was young and dumb in the beginning, which is why I couldn't connect the dots. But I still believe that it wasn't just these two guys from 14 and 13 years ago. I believe there are more, but I cannot prove it. Both guys were on my radar. But this is where I get really confused. She went on to tell me the guy who liked her Instagram pictures 5 years ago gave her a ride home one night and they kissed. First off, the detail about the guy her and her sister shared disgusted me beyond explanation. As it turns out, however, when my wife came clean, she admitted she had her sister contact this guy and tell him, no matter what, to deny the affair. So she gave this guy another opportunity to disrespect me. I stopped asking for detail because everything about the encounter she had with this guy is disgusting. I feel like finding this guy and beating him up. But that would be a bad idea. The guy who fingered her is confusing. I pressed her for more details on that, but she told me that nothing happened. I am lost because what I know disgusts me. Logic dictates she's been a cheater throughout our relationship. On Monday, I went and got an STD test. And even though my two kids look like me, I got a DNA test as well. I truly think her and her sisters are tramps, and I should have done my due diligence before marrying into this family. I feel embarrassed and humiliated. At the same time, my excuse is that I was young and dumb. Never again. We have had a good marriage up until I learned she had lied through it all. At least, my beautiful children are not a lie. I truly believe she's an addict, not addicted to XX, but addicted to attention. Very likely, I will file for a divorce. I have read a lot of infidelity posts and advice. I know my recourse. Just felt like getting this out of my chest. Thank you for staying to the end of this video. Please like and subscribe. Feel free to express your opinion about this story in the comment section. Thank you and have a wonderful day.